So, Lilac Wars in Power Regions, also known as Star Fox 64. Anyone? What a game! Released in 1997 for the Nintendo 64. What a rush! Storyline. So the whole game is set in the Lylat system where there is this scientist called Andross. So there's this planet which has been destroyed by biological weapons, and the evil Andross is looking to take over the solar system. And what better than to send a team of animals out to investigate? Reception. The game actually did pretty well, selling more than 300,000 copies in the first 5 days. This is horrible. Which is apparently more than Mario Kart 64 and Mario 64, which surprises me, but I'm guessing there must have been a fair bit of hype because the marketing budget for the game was £7 million. Also, it was one of the first N64 games to sell more than 1 million copies by the end of 1997. Didn't think it was that popular, but there you go. That was in the US though. In Japan, it didn't do so well. And the game got great reviews, mainly due to its incredible voice acting. Everybody stay alert! It's the voice acting in the game that makes it so timeless and classic, in my opinion. Slippy, watch out! Like, proper voice acting in games hadn't been a thing until 1997 when Lilac Wars or Star Fox 64 was released. But every line in the game is spoken by a voice actor, which is amazing. Do a barrel roll! In the first Star Fox, there was no voice acting, just unintelligible chattering between the characters. And the voice acting in Lilac Wars basically replaced all of that unintelligible chattering to make it a more lifelike and immersive experience. This is horrible. Relatively fun fact, you can actually switch the characters back to chattering unintelligibly again in Lilac Wars by selecting the language Lylat from the language option menu. It's so cute, you can select Lylat. Maybe I could learn Lylat. Do a barrel roll! Rumble Pack. It was actually the first game to be released with a Rumble Pack. What was a Rumble Pack? It was like this cartridge that you could stick into the back of the N64 controller, and every single time you bumped into something or maybe shot your lasers, the whole controller would rumble. So it would kind of go jigga 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 jigga, which kind of added like this extra layer to the game. It was amazing. Well, the Rumble Pack was released in 1997 in Japan, North America and Europe. GamePro described the Rumble Pack as cute, gimmicky, and kind of fun. IGN also praised the Rumble Pack, saying that it added an unusual burst of ecstasy to the game. Levi Buchanan wrote for IGN that it was an industry standard add-on, and he added, "It is bulky and heavy when attached to the Nintendo 64 controller, but that the trade-off is actually worth it." Hell yeah! Gameplay, I mean, it's just a rail shooter. A rail shooter being a game where the vehicle kind of moves along in a straight line and doesn't depart much from it, generally moving straight forward, and in which the player controls a vehicle and you can shoot lasers at the oncoming other aircraft. But despite the relatively simple rail shooter gameplay and the hindering linear progression, you could tap L or Z, which would do a barrel roll, and you could take sharp turns by holding the back button and kind of sail through the level, dodging various obstacles. Characters. One of the best and most memorable things about the game was that the characters are kind of really fully developed, and they all have this backstory which is hinted at during the gameplay and the dialogue. So Peppy will say, "You're becoming more like your father," which is kind of hinting at the backstory, which is that Peppy knew Fox's father back in the olden days. "You're becoming a better pilot. This brings back memories of your dad." And I couldn't do a Lilac Wars video without actually just going back in time and remembering the characters for the wonderful little animals that they were, and super cute too. Namely, Fox McCloud, and he's like the pilot, like he's like the main guy. Peppy Hare, and he's just like this kind of random rabbit that's there. Everybody stay alert! Falco Lombardi, who is this like falcon who's supposed to be an amazing fighter, and he chips in quite a bit. And Slippy Toad, who's just an annoying frog. Peppy! Andross is kind of like the bad guy, evil scientist, trying to take over the Lylat system, and he's an 8. And the intro is like all Star Wars, where they introduce the plot with absolutely horrific font. And then all the animals in the team get introduced. And the fox is all cool. And Peppy is like this rabbit, but actually I always thought he was a rhino. "Slippy, get back here! Slippy, watch out! Bogey on your tail!" And Slippy, this annoying frog, is like, "Wow! Help me!" Thanks, Fox. I thought they had me. I never knew what Slippy was doing on the ship anyway. He just seems to be kind of generally getting in the way. Not sure what his exact role was on the ship. And the point is further amplified by Peppy saying, Slippy's not such a screw up after all. Falcon and Peppy, I remember being kind of helpful on the mission. They'd kind of warn you when someone was like coming up behind you or something like that. But Slippy, no. Slippy, no! And Falco was kind of sarcastic, which was quite funny. He had cool lines like, hey Einstein, I'm on your side, if you accidentally hit him. Yeah, Slippy is as annoying as Looking back, I didn't really like the personalities of any of the characters, but if I had to choose one, it would be Falcon Lombardi. Slippy was just plain old annoying, Peppy was boring, Falcon was rude, and Fox was just too Hollywood. So yeah, out of all the character types, I'd probably be rude. Everybody stay alert! Yeah, there's these animals in space which are going off to investigate the downfall of a planet in a made-up system. What do astronauts even do though? Well, they're basically there to discover the unknown. That's their job. They go into space and recover samples to advance scientific knowledge. And it got me thinking, imagine being married to an astronaut and they just got blown into a million pieces on a failed mission to space. What a way to go. And then you just have to mourn them forever. Every single time you looked up at the stars, you'd imagine the exploding spaceship as your husband got blown up into a million pieces. Development and history. Star Fox came out on the SNES in 1993 with the creator Shigeru Miyamoto, and they were basically developing Star Fox 2 for the SNES. And they were actually working on the game to be released on the SNES, and they realised towards the end that they needed a new chip, the Super FX chip. And this chip would give the game the power it needed to play. The competitor consoles, PlayStation and Sega Saturn, had ultra processing power and basically pissed all over the SNES. So Miyamoto cancelled the development of Star Fox 2 / Star Fox 64 / Lylat Wars. He just cancelled it. And they had almost finished developing it when it was cancelled. What Miyamoto knew was that the N64 was coming out the following year, and it would just be a much more powerful console all round. So it's a pretty brave move to cancel, but I guess had it been released, it would have been a flop due to being upstaged by the games on the PS2 and the Saturn. All the levels were actually quite bleak, where the planet has basically been destroyed by nuclear weapons, which is kind of dark. Yeah, and when they're like running through the cutscenes, they kind of make the animal characters run through this tunnel at one point, and these sirens are like, woo, 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 and it's just like quite scary because it sounds like they're trying to escape some kind of nuclear conductor explosion. One amazing thing about the game was that there were 16 levels, and there were kind of paths through the solar system, through the galaxy that you were going through, which would yield different pathways to the end. And if you were good enough, on some levels you'd find certain secrets and travel to different levels through different kind of portals and things like that. Because they said the same thing about Mario 64, that there were secret levels in it, which may or may not be a fallacy, who knows? You know, the one that you could get to by ground pounding outside Princess Peach's fountain in her front garden. Who knows? Maybe it existed, maybe it didn't. Hallow Horror Halls. Harrow Horror Halls. Yeah, that one. Slippy, get back here. Hey, what's the big idea? Slippy, watch out. Bogey on your tail. Whoa, help me. If I was on the aircraft, I'd say, f off, Slippy, and stop destroying my mission. Thanks, Fox. I thought they had me. So Slippy, I don't even want you on the aircraft anyway. Music was composed by Koji Kondo of Zelda and Mario soundtrack fame. It was very inoffensive, space-style music, a bit like in Star Wars, kind of in the background, very big, very non-diegetic, very apparently there, but ultimately very unintrusive. Back in the strange days of January 2024, YouTubers Games Done Quick did a speedrun of the game, link in comments, and they kill Slippy off very early on in the level. I'm gonna be monkey meat if I don't get out of here. And they actually kill him off because he's A, the worst character to have around, but also to minimize interference in the timed run that they're doing. As you go through the level, you have all of the characters to start with, but the characters can die if they're shot or killed off. If all of the characters are alive at the end of the first level, there's this cutscene which takes around 8 to 10 seconds. So they kill Sippy off rather cruelly, but to my mind, rather usefully early on in the level, so that they can avoid this cutscene and make the speed run a bit shorter. It's actually quite a fun speed run to watch. You should check it out. They make good use of the boost features. You know, when you're speeding through a level, you can generally avoid a lot of enemies, as it takes a little bit of time for them to fire up when your ass gets into the beginning of the level. Another thing that they actually flag is lag management on the N64, and it actually made me realize, yeah, the N64, so much lag. So they try and kind of minimize the explosions and the enemies on screen by speeding through it as quickly as possible, as this usually created loads of lag. So yeah, I hope that you have enjoyed this little trek into space to find out more about the Lylat Wars / Star Fox 64 game. Did you enjoy Star Fox 64? I don't know why I'm calling it Star Fox 64 now. I always called it Lylat Wars. Did you enjoy Star Fox 64? Discuss. Yeah, I thought it was a great game. Classic 5th gen 3D goodness. Mwah, mwah, mwah.